There we go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, joined by this beauty of a man, Liam Picks Fights. After the weigh-ins, we have an absolute banger of a card tomorrow. I mean, a bit of a step down from the last one, but it is a fight card nonetheless, and I'm hyped, my man. How are we doing?
I'm doing quite well, man. And, honestly, I've been very busy this week. Haven't even gotten to put a video out on my own channel yet. So probably going to do something either late night tonight or early morning tomorrow. I'm still debating that, but wanted to get on, give, some knowledge out to the people. And we've been keeping this tradition on Fridays and wanted to honor that. So here we are once again. And, I do have some bets on this card, and I'm happy to get into it with you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. As always, you're an absolute gem, and I appreciate you coming here. But it sounds like we have some exclusive Liam Picks Fights content here. Come on. First time heard, and I know we're head-to-head, so let's not waste any time. It's a smaller fight card. We got 11 this week, but straight out of the bag, I'm a Max Holloway fan. I love the guy. He's an absolute beast, and that is pretty much the high peak of this card. There's a couple fights flying under the radar, but there's a couple who just don't live up to standards from the last couple of weeks. But no, I'm excited to hear your takes. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm sorry I couldn't come on and do some Contender Series this week. It felt weird not doing anything on Tuesday. But no, we're back. Nice afternoon fights, and let's get it started. First fight of the night. Kennedy Nchekwu, 9-1 versus Da Ung Jung, 14-2-1. Now, here's the thing. I already know I'm head-to-head with you on this one. This is the first fight of the night. We are head-to-head, and that is not a good sign for me. You are one sharp man. But before I let you take this one away, I have bet on Kennedy a lot in the past. I have betted against Jung in the past. And this is a weird one because I had to really look back in the tape. All right? It's the one where I had to take a step back because all my mind in the pre-tape study was always, I think Kennedy should win this fight. But I look back on it, Kennedy won a lot of his fights by gassing people out and being smarter than them and letting other people succumb to his pressure and being able to outwork them and out-cardio them and be the beast that he is. He's a very, very good athletic man. Da Ung Jung outsmarts people by using his talent more than his athleticism, I think. I bet William Knight against him because I thought William Knight would be able to out-clinch him. Don't bet on William Knight. I know that now. But he was able to land 8 takedowns against William Knight. Showed he had a good ground game as well, be able to mix things up where he has to. And on the feet, we know he's a great boxer. We know he's got great power in his hands. So the way that I see this one is pretty simple. Kennedy won't be able to wear out Jung like he's supposed to. I think that if Jung wanted to, he has a clear advantage on the ground. And I think the biggest thing to worry about is these kickboxing exchanges where I feel like Da Ung Jung can definitely hold his own. I mean, yes, he got to a draw with Sam Alvey, but maybe not the best stylistic matchup for him. I think that this is going to be a decision fight where I think Da Ung Jung edges it out, and I'm more than happy to lay -125 on him. All right, take it away, my friend. Tell me why you're on Mr. Kennedy this weekend.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to start with a shout out to my teammate, Anthony Malguti, who's actually going to be grappling William Knight at a grappling event in Massachusetts. And, we're very excited for that. Anthony is one of our, very talented blue belts, and I think he's going to start to make waves very soon. So with that shout out aside, I'll just say this. I thought William Knight made a lot of technical errors in that fight. And I also think that, I thought the wrestling style employed by Da Ung Jung was very body type, reliant. Here's what I mean. He did a lot of sagging trips. He did a lot of, over-under locks. And because he had the length on his arms, he was able to, keep that lock at a further distance. So he could keep his hips back and keep his lock, whereas William Knight, who has short arms, could not do that. And William Knight is also built like a box. So if you trip the bottom of, and I say this with all due respect, but like the man is like very built up top. What that means, and I used to like wrestling guys like this too, is that if you can put a blocker behind their foot, their big chest is going to fall backwards, right? It's like a lead stone. And so I felt like William Knight was not adapting in that fight and realizing that it was the same clinch scenario over and over again. He kept putting himself into the over-under. Like he would be like, oh, he's pressuring forward. Let me put myself in the over-under clinch. I don't think that's what Kennedy does. Kennedy likes to push away a little bit if you try and clinch up with him. he throws a ton of volume, man. I know that sometimes he can get caught watching and looking, but like in the burst where he's throwing, he'll let loose a lot of volume, especially if he feels that you're starting to slow down a little bit. And I think that, you know, that's where we see him start to take over these fights. You know, I think people have an idea that it's just guys getting tired. Go back and watch the Carlos Ulberg fight. You know, he does take a lot of hard shots, and I wouldn't encourage any young fighter to fight like that, but I do think he's got a unique durability. And I think that he was walking him down and landing shots throughout. He was landing shots to the body. He was hitting pretty decent 1-2s. He was landing with more authority on the counter as the fight went on. And I think that Carlos, you know, was getting desperate. He was trying to keep him off him with the kicks. He was throwing big high kicks, trying to keep this guy away from him. And he gassed himself doing that. I think that Kennedy, with his length, especially, is going to be able to push onto the front foot here. And I do think that, you know, he's probably going to have a competitive first round, if not drop the first round here. And so that's why at this plus 106 price, you know, I'm not running to the window to put down action. But you know, I did put down one unit at plus 147, and, you know, the line movement has suggested that, you know, the market didn't think that plus 147 was an appropriate price. And I think this is closer to a pick'em price for me, a pick'em fight. You know, the one thing that stood out to me the most looking into this matchup is that the combined opponent records for Daun Jung in the UFC is 17-9. 47% win rate for Daun Jung's opponents. You know, he had a draw with Sam Alvey that, frankly, you know, he got a unanimous 10-8, which is like the rarest thing in MMA. God bless him for it. But it's like, okay, he takes the 10-8 round. You're dropping 2 rounds to Sam Alvey in this form of his career, who literally can't win a round against anybody else. I've said I've made the mistake of thinking that people were good because Sam Alvey beats them at light heavyweight. You know, Ryan Spann, same thing. I'm like, you know, wow, like Ryan Spann has success against other people, and it blows my mind because he literally was getting beat up by Sam Alvey, and then Sam Alvey can't win a round at middleweight. So I think that, you know, the Mike Rodriguez win aged poorly. You know, Khadisi Bragimov, literally 0-4, horrible UFC run, probably got off the sauce with all due respect. And so, you know, I don't think that Kennedy is like a pushover physically. I think he's going to be the physically more intimidating guy. I think that he's got the length and the reach. I think that could make a difference for him here. And I do like his cardio down the stretch. I like his pressuring style. I think it's going to be a fun clash. You know, I do think that Daun Jung has some serious power. You know, maybe he's the guy to take out Kennedy. And if so, your DraftKings is going to be looking sweet. But I do think that, you know, Kennedy is a power threat, in my opinion. You know, he doesn't have all these knockdowns to his name, but I think that guys can't take, you know, 60 to 100 shots from this guy. You know, I just think he's going to pile up these little shots that do a lot of damage. You know, he just impacts the face. I remember seeing people just get busted open by these shots that don't look like a lot. You know, he looks like he's punching a little awkwardly, but I do think that the guy is very coachable as well. He's at a pretty good camp. I don't know. I'm interested to see how he performs here, but I do think he's had the much tougher schedule. And frankly, winning 14 and a half minutes over Paul Craig is like more impressive than anything in Daun Jung's career, in my opinion. So we'll have to wait and see, but.
Hey, you know, I respect your stance on that. And I think the line does really have to play a factor in it. I think that if it was minus 150, minus 160, I wouldn't really play it. But if I'm getting minus 120, minus 125, I'm going to have to, because I think that the areas where Jung is better is just a lot larger list than the areas where Kennedy is better. I do like Kennedy as a person, and he's very, like you said, very coachable, and he does listen very well to what he does. But I think that when it comes to the end of it, skill-wise, I'm going to have to give that to Jung. Athleticism, sure, we can give that to Kennedy, but I just think that he won't be able to do the same thing he did to Ulberg, won't be able to do the same thing he did to Marquez. And Paul Craig is notorious for losing until he's not, right? So it's a tough one. Yeah, let's see.
My closing argument would just be this. We've seen him now against two different kinds of like targeted specialists, and he was able to beat them in their game. So like Danilo Marquez gets exact, like if you said to a Danilo Marquez better. All right, we're going to give him the back for 10 minutes. You want the bet? Everybody says, of course. Yeah, give me the bet. And then Kennedy wins. If you say Carlos Ulberg's going to land, X amount of strikes in the first round on Kennedy and Zechiku, clean shots, have him wobbled, and Kennedy shoots no takedowns. Who do you pick in the fight? Who are you betting on? Again, it's like this is what you would say, and he beats those guys. Those are bad matchups. Those are tough specialist guys. He's like a well-rounded type of guy, and he beat both of them. And like he was in the worst spots that he could be in both fights and won them. So I'm like, who is this guy? Why does he keep doing this? At this point, I'm just not going to fade him as a big plus money underdog. If you like Daun Jung, then God bless you, because you got what you wanted, right? The line has come in tremendously. So now you got your chance at a much better price. And I think now's the time to get in. But I do think, I like the almost plus 150 on Kennedy and Zechiku, the guy who can literally get, if you said to me, Liam, you want this bet starting round 3 and he's down 2 rounds, I'm like, maybe, I'm like, maybe. I think that this guy is going to come on strong as the fight comes on. And I think that's his problem. His problem is getting comfortable in the cage and letting his hands go. And I think that, if you're talking about what do you need to let your hands go, it's confidence. And he's coming off of 2 massive wins. And I think that this could just be, this could be another right step for him. But, hey, he's got a tough challenge. This is, a good prospect matchup. I like where the card's starting out.
Fair. And I do too, man. Going head to head on the first one. I'll be excited to see how it plans out. Good luck to you and all your bets. We got a question here from Mr. Frank. Thank you as always for hanging out in the chat, Mr. Newman. Liam is a BJJ specialist. I don't know how much you get punched in the face, my friend.
I don't. I do in the backyard. I do for fun. I do if somebody looks at me cross, I suppose. But no, I'm just kidding. That's not really what I do. I do have these mangled ears, I can say. But that's from wrestling for, a little over 10 years. That's from grappling now for, just about 2 years, a little, give or take a couple months in either direction there. But, COVID kind of interrupted my grappling journey. But I love this stuff, man. And so mostly a grappler. Still train some striking arts as well on my own time. I have a heavy bag. I like to get after it in that way. I'm a nut. But no, I'm not formally trained in the striking arts. So that's why I do always give that as a heads up when I'm handicapping these fights. If it's a striker versus striker matchup, hey, maybe Liam's opinion should be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. I am a big fan. I have been watching the sport for a lot of years, and I do try to analyze it from a technical perspective outside of just what I can do. But I appreciate the question as well, Frank.
Well, you do have a fight coming up, so best of luck from the Plays and Fades community over here. But speaking of fights, the next one on the card is one of the favorites here. It's flying under the radar. We have Marty Casey facing Rafael Alves, 19-10. Rafael Alves versus 14-4 Marty Casey, coming off the loss to Rafael Fiziev. Now, if you guys don't know who Marty Casey is, he's the guy with like the red mohawk that looks pretty sick, and he's also the guy that got, I'm not going to say destroyed, but he got put on a clinic against Rafael Fiziev. Rafael Fiziev beat him. He has some very good losses. His only four MMA losses are to Rafael Fiziev, Nasrat Haqparast, Dan Hooker, and Drakkar Klose. He's fought some pretty good competition. And he's facing a guy in Rafael Alves who got a very, very tough UFC debut after missing weight on was supposed to be his UFC debut. And he got fed to the wolves. And now he's here again. And this is one where I'm seeing a lot of love for Dia Casey, and I can see it. I think that Dia Casey is a very, very good fighter, lots of technical abilities, and I think he should win this fight. Problem I have is I don't have the best read on Alves. I know he's a killer. He comes out strong. He's had a problem gassing, but he didn't show that much in his last fight. He's one of these guys who's a killer to be killed. So I don't know if I should look at the under or anything here. This is one where I'm going to sit back and see where Mark Diakasey is, because I think Mark Diakasey has all the tools to win this one, and I think he should win it pretty convincingly. The problem is Alves is one of these guys who will go for broke, and he'll do all these crazy things, jump on these necks, jump on these heavy overhand rights, and I admire that style, and I don't know. I'm waiting to see what you got on this one. So who are you taking in this next fight up?
Yeah, so in terms of tracked action, I don't believe I have anything yet on this bout. I'm probably going to look to add, if I had to lean towards a side in this matchup, it's going to be Mark Diakasey. Going back through the tape of Alves, he is, like you mentioned, this kind of killer be killed type of fighter, largely speaking. He's got some decision wins, but they're all a little wonky in my opinion. And most of his losses, the vast majority, are by submission, but they're inside the distance. This guy tends to like win emphatically or lose emphatically. And it's kind of based on his style. You see in the Ismagulov fight what his game plan is really. If all goes well, he's going to try and hurt you and sub you. He's going to try and club and sub. He's a classic club and sub type guy. And I don't think that's going to work on Diakasey, who's largely fairly defensively responsible. Now, I will also grant that the Nasrat fight is not a good look when I'm talking about defensively responsible. And Nasrat put him under a lot of pressure. The difference is, man, Nasrat was moving. He was like, bouncing in and out. Alves can do a little bit of that, but I'm telling you, man, after going through this guy's tape, there are like 45-second periods where nobody moves. Like he's just standing there looking at the guy and maybe moving his head a little bit, but like nothing is happening. No strikes are being exchanged at all. And it's like these weird standoffish fights. I think because a lot of people were afraid of his size, his power, his physicality, his muscles, his guillotine. So even grapplers were like, maybe I don't try and get a hold of this guy until he slips on a kick or some crazy thing. But he basically limits himself to throwing like big, massive, crazy hooks running into the pocket. He'll throw some kicks, but I really think that Alves is kind of finish or bust in the spot. If I was to play Alves here, I'd play him plus 400 inside the distance because I really think his decision equity is very limited in this fight, especially with Diakasey, who is pretty reliable to throw volume. If I could say my number one concern for Diakasey in this spot, it's that he sticks his head in the hole a little bit, shooting takedowns if he gets hurt. But what I will say is I did dig into where he's training. Diakasey's had a laundry list of like very good training environments over the course of his career. Now he's at All-Star. He's training with Khamzat Chimaev. He's training with Alexander Gustafsson. It seems like he's taking his career very seriously. And he's regrouping and trying to shore up the areas where he felt like he was a little deficient. Some of the wrestling and the grappling transitions. He absolutely dominated Lando Venata with the wrestling and grappling down the stretch in their fight. So I think that overall, I like more of Diakasey's game. I think he's got a better and more clear process. I think that his frame is going to be much more effective at this weight class. I think that a lot of Alves' game is predicated on being the bigger guy, but I think you're kidding yourself if you talked yourself out of thinking Alves could come out here and get the sub in the first round. I put that as like a smaller case outcome if Diakasey gets caught cold, if he's not ready to fight for whatever reason. But I think if Diakasey looks like Diakasey, he should win this fight pretty cleanly. I would not be surprised to see him finish. A lot of people are on Diakasey decision this week, but I think that a sharp look on this fight might be the under 2.5 rounds. That's something that I played here. Again, a lot of people talking about the fight going to decision. It's possible, but Alves more often than not gets finished when he loses. Diakasey, not the world's best finisher, but he's got knockout power. He's finished people by knockout in the UFC. And, I wouldn't put it past him to submit Alves. He's been talking a lot about wanting to make a statement in this fight. He's been working primarily on his grappling in the lead up to this fight. Alves has been submitted down the stretch a number of times. And what I would say about his game is that his offense is very potent, but his defense leaves a lot to be desired. And I would include that on the ground. I've seen him get held down. I've seen him get taken down in a lot of fights on the regionals. And Damir Ismagulov absolutely leveled him with ground and pound that was vicious. And I feel like, he didn't want to win that fight by the end of it. And so I think that Alves can be talked out of fights, and I think Diakiese's here to fight. So I like Diakiese in the spot. I probably wouldn't touch the line over -200, but I think Diakiese gets the job done this weekend, and I think he's probably going to do it inside the distance. But to cover my ass, in case Alves is the one that gets it done, I'm going to play that under 2.5 rounds on my tracked action, and maybe parlay up to Casey.
Well, I'm super glad you said that, because that's the one play I was waiting for this fight history to talk me into. It was +120, fight doesn't go to decision. I mean, it's pretty simple. When you got a fighter who goes balls to the wall and wants to get that finish right away, like Alphael does, killer to be killed, you like to bet those unders. And when it's juiced up to plus money, a guy with Diakiese who wants to make a statement, I don't mind it. I haven't played it yet. I was debating it because I think this is one that could definitely end, especially with Alves' track record. Not only does he get subbed, but he gets leg kicked finished. He's finished on the feet as well, which, I mean, it's not like Diakiese doesn't have some
Diakiese has thudding leg kicks.
Oh,
thudding leg kicks.
So I'm telling you, it's a very good possibility for this one to end. I didn't talk about it much in my UFC video. Again, guys, after the video's done, you can check that one out. But Diakiese is not a bad play either, because I think he should finish. The problem is I'm low for underdogs this week, so I don't have the value for it sometimes. But no, I do think that Diakiese is very live to finish here. I like the +120 fight doesn't go to decision, and let's move on. I think that's the best way to look at this fight. You can look at Diakiese inside the distance as well, but I would not count out Alves. All right. Next fight up on the card. We can keep this one short because there's better fights. I'll tell you that one for sure. Courtney Casey 9-9, Liana Jojua 8-4. Courtney Casey, notorious for going to split decision, notorious for losing those close fights. Complete 500 record versus Liana Jojua, who is how do I put this nicely? You know what? I'll let you handle this one. I don't think she's the best fighter in the UFC either. I think she has a lot of holes that can be exploited by fighters. Is Case going to be the one to do it? I don't know. I have a bold take on this one, and I'm excited to tell you about it. So let's let you take this one first, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
All right, man. I'll make this one short and sweet. I haven't looked into this fight a tremendous amount. This is not my favorite fight on the card from a betting perspective. I will not be betting Courtney Casey at -250. That's not going to happen. It doesn't matter who her opponent is. And, I think that from what I've seen, there's sharper action on Jojua, and I'll leave it at that. But I do not know, and this is a fight I have not looked into very, very closely.
Well, you said it perfectly. You should not be betting Courtney Casey -250. Sorry. I think the way I want to target this fight, if I do at all, I have no bet on this one at all. I don't think I will. The one thing I was looking at was, again, another violence bet. Liana Jojua loses, I think 3 of her 4 fights in the first round. When she loses emphatically. Doctor stoppage last time out, has been finished on the ground before. Not saying that Courtney Casey is the one to do it, but she's pretty fast in the feet. She's a veteran of the sport. She's going to be able to bring it to Jojua, who hasn't really been tested that much. And on the other hand, Courtney Casey's been finished on the ground. If Jojua is working with Merab as a video show, and she is working on that wrestling and is working on getting better on the ground, that's definitely a path to victory she could have. I just think this is a spot where if there are levels like I expect it to be, Courtney should be able to get her out of there. I'm not saying Courtney Casey is a huge finisher, but if there's anyone she should be able to finish, it's probably Jojua. On the other hand, if she wants to slip up, and I'm not going to say choke, but if she wants to mess up as she tends to do and keep things close, Jojua is no joke on the ground. I'll give her credits there. The armbar will be there if Courtney Casey does go down with her. I don't know. I think it's a sloppy women's fight. Not very tempted to play it at all, but if I want to throw into a Hail Mary, I think I would look at the fight doesn't go, which of course is never pretty to bet on when you're betting women's fight, but I will see where I end up at the end of the day.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Liana Jojua has never seen the distance in a UFC fight.
Exactly. And
where it's been plus money twice. Miranda Maverick, it was only -140. And frankly, we should have known,
Well, I'm not saying Courtney Casey is a potent finisher, but she's been around the game. She knew what to do. She has skills, I'll tell you that. Will I lay that much money on her money line? No, I'd much rather lay it on the fight doesn't go, because I think that if she does get reckless and want to finish this fight, Jojua has her small chance to end it. But I do think that Casey's the better fighter here. GPP plays on DraftKings. If you want to go big or go home, I'd take Liana Jojua. I'll have a tiny bit of ownership on her just because she does have those abilities and she is able to do well in that first round, but not really something I'm going crazy over betting. And that's what I'm going to say is that's going to be it for me. Keeping it simple. Don't play it unless you're really desperate for anything. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to get into anything fancy here. It's going to be a sloppy one. I hope it's very exciting. I will probably have a nice little Hail Mary on the under, but nothing official. All right. This is one where I want to get you talking. Sean Woodson, 8-1. Man looks like Slenderman. This man is a lanky man. It's really funny every time I see him. Versus Colin Aglin, 8-2. This is one of the widest lines in the entire card. And if anybody's seen my DraftKings video, you will know I'm actually thinking the line should be a lot closer than it is. I will be having a bet on Colin Aglin come tomorrow. The line's still moving, no action yet. But what are your thoughts on this one?
So I have 1.25 units on Colin Anglin at plus 275.
Yeah.
And, so I'm glad that we get to line up together on this one, my brother. And it's very simple for me. I played Yusuf Zalal at a smaller bet size, at a smaller plus number, and I wasn't altogether, resentful of the bet. I was a little bit impressed by some of the improvements from Woodson, but what I'll also point out is this. Yusuf Zalal made critical errors in that fight, and frankly, throughout his whole UFC career, that's led to him not having a UFC career for the time being, and I wish him the best. I think he's actually like a talented fighter, and I think that with the right changes to his style, he could be a very effective fighter. But I think that number one, what we saw cost him in that spot is he tried to wrestle a very large, tall, long man at the body, and it's doable in open space. It's almost impossible against the cage, and that's why tall guys like to skirt around the outside of the octagon sometimes in MMA and put themselves along the fence line because they know that their takedown defense is far superior along the fence line as opposed to out in the open. And I think that, number one, rewatching that Yusuf Zalal fight, the thing that stood out to me the most is that Yusuf Zalal could not throw a left hook without landing it. Like, he literally could not miss it. I was like, wow, Woodson's hands are never in the right position to defend that. So I think that's a problem against Colin Anglin, who does, for all his faults, throw very hard. I think that Colin Anglin, is a little bit reckless on the feet. I think that it's very possible he could get caught in this fight. But what I like about the matchup is, number one, Woodson doesn't throw with a tremendous amount of power in his hands. He lands a shit ton. He throws in pretty good volume, but his whole style is like self-immolation. Like, the guy starts the fight throwing all this volume until he has nothing left. And he has nothing left by like the 11 and a half minute, 12-minute mark. And that's just a problem if you want to win fights. Because if somebody like Julian Erosa, who's like a crafty finisher, sticks around, it becomes easy pickings. It's so shocking to rewatch that fight where Julian Erosa literally gets like stumbled to the floor, gets up and finishes him like 20 seconds later because he's so tired. Like, he can't follow through on the damage he's doing. And I think that this guy Anglin, he's tough as heck. Melsik Bagdasaryan was a really tough matchup. Not the kind of guy he could get to from a wrestling perspective, because Melsik's built like a small house, at 145 pounds. You got to really have skill technically to get into Melsik, and you got to be fast and elusive. And Anglin's not the most willing wrestler. He likes to throw these winging bombs a little bit because he feels like it'll keep the guy off him more effectively. But that being said, I've seen the tape of this guy picking people up at the waist, slamming them, lifting them overhead, wrapping up double legs. And he's got the right background. He said wrestling was all he knew before he came to MMA at 20 or so years old. And so if this fight starts going poorly, he's going to go to what he knows, which is wrestling, and he's going to try and wrestle this guy. And I think Woodson, when you're going against a guy who's like an all-arounder, he's going to be able to meet those guys with his skills. He's got good all-around skills. But a wrestler who's committed to wrestling should be able to out-wrestle this guy, in my opinion. And I think on top of that, his frame is not ideal. And I think that Anglin at plus 275 is a bit disrespectful. 1.25 unit shot for me. And I think Anglin inside the distance is a look. I think Anglin round 3 is a look. And I think, frankly, if you're looking for like a real weird outside shot, Anglin has no recorded submissions. But if you go back and watch that Naimov fight, he sort of looked a little green on the ground in that fight. And he had a couple really opportunistic rear naked choke positions and couldn't put the screws to him. He's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know the official rank of Woodson, but it's never looked that impressive on the ground. And frankly, he got darsed with the shocking quickness by Erosa, who's crafty there. I will give him that. But it's like, I think that, Anglin by sub at plus 1,500 or whatever it is, I don't hate that look either, because Anglin is probably going to be able to wrestle him down the stretch if he so chooses. And I think if he's on top, if Woodson's not able to get that get-up game going, I think eventually he might look for a way out if he gets tired. And I think Anglin, will have the right positions to put in a finish. It kind of reminds me of the Derek Brunson fight with Darren Till. And, maybe it doesn't end up looking like that in the end, but I just mean from the sense that if this guy gets on top of him, he might just take the path of least resistance and go for the choke as opposed to throwing 100 strikes. Some guys are sadists. They're just there to do violence to somebody. And other guys, but other guys are just like trying to get the win, right? So if you offer up the neck, they're going to be like, all right, here you go, buddy. I'll take you out of here. And I think Anglin in round 3 could definitely be accepting the I'll get you out of here, buddy, on behalf of our good friend and one of my favorite fades in the UFC, Sean Woodson. And, I will say I might lose money again here, but I just don't think Woodson's game is well put together. I think it's got a lot of show and less go to it. I don't think he's got the devastating stopping power that would keep Anglin off of him. And, Anglin getting head kicked by Bogdasarian doesn't really tell me a ton. The fight was otherwise pretty competitive, and I'll tell you this: he kind of lost that fight due to knees in the clinch, in my opinion. And I felt like he did some good work there himself, but just ended up getting swallowed up by a better clinch fighter. I'd be interested to see how Woodson fares in the clinch. Zalal got hyper-focused on getting the takedowns and didn't work from the clinch very much. I'd like to see Anglin work a little bit from the clinch, get this guy tired, sap his energy, and then take him out in round 2 or 3. That's what I'd like to see from Colin Anglin in the spot. And I'd like to see him shoot takedowns here, with some consistency, at least 1 or 2 a round.
Well, you said it all, and I'm with you there. I think Colin Anglin should not be this big of an underdog. Woodson does not have all the tools to live up to that price tag. I don't think Woodson's that potent of a finisher. Aside from Melsick, we know how good – oh, I'm not going to say that. But we know how durable he can be. Anglin is a really durable guy. Bogdasarian hits like a truck, man. He is a tough customer. So Anglin's got some good wrestling. Hey, I think so. Not enough to get your knockout proc last week, but I think that Melsick has a lot of power in those hands and those legs. But Anglin has those wrestling chops. He can give that same problem that Zalal did give to Woodson last time they fought, but maybe throw in some more combinations, be a bit more reckless, focus on more than just one thing at a time. I think his wrestling credentials will definitely win him a lot of minutes and win him a lot of drafting points. So I am more than happy to take that stab with you, because plus 200, plus 220 is absolutely absurd for a wrestler against Sean Woodson.
And just to answer Mina in the chat, Anglin is not a bad striker. Like, he's an okay striker. I think DFS Whisperer said it best. His striking's okay. I would even say he's not even the world's best wrestler. He's just like, he's all right at everything. And I think that I think his wrestling's just sneaky in the back pocket. Like, I think he's just going to be physical in ways that Woodson's not really used to dealing with. Look at Anglin on the scale, man. He's a massive looking featherweight.
He is.
And, I think in terms of his wrestling background, it's just a different style of grappling. If you come from a grappling background, maybe you do some of the throws and the upper body and the trips, especially if you're an MMA fighter. But if you come from a wrestling background, you learn to shoot low. You learn to attack at the legs. And I think that might make the difference here. I think Anglin's leg attacks could take down Sean Woodson in ways that Zalal's body locks were unable to do so.
Well, hopefully DFS Whisper comes through again. Guys, make sure to check out his channel as well. Absolute stud. We'll have to have you on here sometimes as well. Chris Curtis came through for. Didn't you have something like Chris Curtis as well? Yeah.
Oh, round 3.
Okay. So you guys both had picked them to win, and you know what? They came through, and hopefully Colin Aglin does the same thing again. I think he has the tools to get it done. Like I mentioned in my DFS video, he's one of the underdogs I'm going to take a shot on because his win criteria is takedowns, top control, and good scoring DFS points. So that's going to do it for that one. Let's move right along. That's a good one. I appreciate your insight on that one. Cynthia
0.2
Calvillo.
units, England, round 3, plus 2,400. That is all.
Okay. All right. I like that one. I might take a stab at it myself. All right. Cynthia Calvillo, 9-3-1 versus Andrea Lee at 12-5. Andrea Lee, I can never get her right. I bet Shevchenko against it last time. Ouch. Awful bet on my end, but that's okay. I have nothing. I have no idea. I love fading Cynthia Calvillo. Worked out good for me last time. Cash on the KO, cash on the inside the distance, cash on the money line. I have no read on this one. I think whoever is able to get off their game plan should win this one pretty convincingly. I have no bet. I have no DraftKings ownership. I'm going to let you take this one away because I am out of this one.
I am going to start by saying I am, long-term not profitable on betting women's MMA to this point in my gambling life. So I'm just going to be upfront and disclose that. I am betting Andrea Lee in this fight. And,
Okay.
my rationale is as follows, right? I bet her, I want to say at plus 111, plus one, or actually, no, I think it was plus 115, excuse me. So I think I bet her at plus 115 earlier today. And here's the reasons why, right? Andrea Lee, go back through her record, right? She's been a massive favorite in most of the fights that she's had in the UFC. And granted, against some lower level competition, but even against the likes of Roxy, Lauren Murphy, Joanne Calderwood, the market was saying Andrea Lee should be the favorite in these spots. And then in her most recent fight against freaking Shevchenko, she comes in as the underdog, right? And so she wins that fight very convincingly. And she is now back again as an underdog in this matchup. And Cynthia Calvillo definitely has plus level skills, but I'll tell you this, right? I understand what you're saying, but she at least has a reason, an explanation, a rationale for why that is. Andrea Lee says she was overtraining at that time. She says that she's made wholesale changes in her training program that have affected her performances. And I'll just say this, if Andrea Lee is able to keep this fight on the feet, I think that she's definitely going to outland and outvolume Cynthia Calvillo over the course of the fight. I think that Cynthia, I bet a lot on Jessica Andrade last time out. I was quite sure she was going to win that fight. And I got nervous coming up to fight time because I went back and I watched the tape and I was like, man, Marina got off Calvillo got off the 10-8 round on Marina. Maybe she really is just next level on the ground. And then it flashed back to me that, she missed weight for that fight. And, she used to be at straw weight when she was doing this. And now she is at, flyweight. So it's like, man, I don't like Cynthia at flyweight. She's had a couple flat performances. I don't really rate the win over Jessica Eye all that much at this point. And I don't think that win over Jessica Eye is like replicable over a lot of other women in the division. It was like an outboxing performance and, at a tepid pace. And I feel like this is a fight where, Roxy is actually like sneaky skilled. Like for all the lack of athleticism, Roxy has some decent skills, especially in the grappling portion of the fight. Cynthia Calvillo, she's just not the most committed wrestler. Like if you bet on her in her last few fights, you're probably very frustrated because she doesn't wrestle enough. And, other analysts have pointed out that a lot of her takedowns have come off caught kicks. That's true. And I think that, Cynthia might be able to scramble on top in some of these exchanges, but I think Andrea is going to be the more physical lady. I think she might end up on top, honestly, in some of these exchanges. And I'm going to have to ultimately side with Andrea at the plus money tag. I think that this fight could be pick'ems. I think that this fight could be -125 Andrea Lee. Again, she's been favored in every other matchup. Arguable that she won some of those fights that went to a split decision. It's like now we're just completely off the train on this girl. And really, this is like coming back probably with a little bit of damaged confidence for Cynthia Calvillo. Kind of had that big bump, big main event win, then sees the upper echelon of the division and has nothing to offer. She's kind of getting a little bit up there in age as well. I don't like it. I know that Andrea Lee is no spring chicken, but I don't know. Something about this fight just says dog or pass to me, and that's what I'm going to stick with. I'm going to bet the dog here. I'm not going crazy. This isn't a 5-unit play. It's just 1.1 units plus 115. And I like this look. I think that Andrea Lee, I like her momentum coming into this matchup. I do not like, I feel like this is one person trending up in a division and one person trending down. And we'll wait and see on Saturday night. But I've made some good money fading Cynthia Calvillo, and we'll see if we can keep the train rolling. Jessica Andrade, obviously a much more devastating puncher, a little bit more reliable, but I think that Andrea Lee at the plus money tag, I'm willing to take that shot. I laid a lot of chalk on Jessica Andrade last time out with some good confidence, and so I'm going to parlay some of those winnings over onto a bet and see if we can double up.
Fair, man. I respect the breakdown because honestly, like I said, I'm sorry, Whisper. I'm sorry I got no breakdown for you, but this is one where I did the tape. I look at it. I have so many question marks I don't really want to put my money on. I lined it originally at Calvillo -120. I think the line's a bit wide because Lee's able to hold her own in certain aspects, and where she doesn't have the power Andrade does, she's got some good skills in the feet as well. I just think that if Calvillo is able to execute that game plan and get her down there, I think she wins more minutes, but it's not something I really want to put my money on. I respect your stab on the underdog. I respect your reasoning, and I hope you make some money because I got nothing on this one. I'm completely out of it. Best of luck to you because I have no read. I'll sit back, hopefully be a better judge for the next one. I'm just going to cut my losses. Andrea Lee, we're not best friends. We don't have a very good time together betting on or against her, so I'm going to sit this one out. All right. Moving right along. All right, this is the one. Thiago Moises is 15-5. Joel Alvarez 18-2. This is the only play I've technically posted because, the Ravens. Whoa, the Ravens, man. That Dolphins defense. What is going on? But no, I had a 2-unit bet on the Ravens and Thiago Moises together, and now I'm here scrambling to figure out how I want to play my boy Thiago Moises again. This is a side where Moises, I think, should be an even bigger favorite than this, which is tough to say. But I just think Moises should be a parlay piece amongst a card with almost no parlay pieces at all. I think that Thiago Moises is better almost everywhere than Joel Alvarez. I think Joel Alvarez is one of these guys who relies on a finish. All of his wins are, he had a 100% finish rate. Good for him. I'll give you that. I just don't see him finishing Thiago Moises. I think Thiago Moises wins minutes on the feet. I think he's getting a huge step down in competition. I think Alvarez is getting a huge step up. And even at that, I think that Alvarez is over here getting all the wins by against low competition. And just, it's a tough one for me to look at. I think that Alvarez is not going to be able to finish him on the ground. Moises is definitely able to keep with him on the ground. I think that Moises is a guy who has only been finished by Islam Makhachev. We're not going to hold that against him. And I don't think that Alvarez can be able to replicate that. So, going to be a guy who's going to be able to hold his own on the ground, win minutes on the feet, win minutes in the clinch. I don't see the biggest path to victory for Alves, and for that reason, I am all over Thiago Moises, except for now, I have no bet on him. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, man. I got to just say this. I bet on Thiago Moises against Islam Makhachev. Ooh. I don't know a greater sign of respect that I can give somebody than that. Just because I didn't think that Islam was just going to be able to work him completely in the grappling. I thought that Thiago would be able to, potentially wrestle him back. We saw brief snippets of that, but unfortunately, it was the pressure, it was the pace, it was the power, it was the reliability, and ultimately it was the fact that it was the championship rounds. And eventually we see Islam able to get the back. And, I was really impressed, honestly, by the performance. That was really what woke me up to Islam's skill, because I do rate Thiago Moises. I think he's a good grappler. I think that, people undersell what it was to go out there and just pull back on that foot lock on Michael Johnson. It was a fight where he was losing and he just decided, I'm not going to lose at all. I'm going to go win. Yeah, I agree with you on that point. Exactly, Mina. And I would also say this, right? The reason that I'm not like rushing to play Thiago Moises for all the units this weekend is because the size difference is immense. This guy, Joel Alvarez, is just cheating. Like, he just doesn't show up on weight. Like, he's just a 170 pounder. And I bet that will be the case the next time he shows up in the UFC. But, he gets one more crack at 155. But I'll say this. Dana was really impressed by Islam taking, by Moises taking the Islam fight. Nobody wanted that fight. And I think that the UFC is trying to do him a favor here by giving him this Alvarez fight. Alvarez kind of concedes takedowns all the time, was able to get some interesting sweeps off. I like his jiu-jitsu game. It's fun. It's exotic. It's interesting. But, like a lot of flashy games, it functions less and less effectively the higher level of competition you get to, I would think. And so I think somebody who's a little more bread and butter, pressure passing, basics, top position, half guard smash. Like, I just think somebody like Thiago Moises was probably going to pass his guard and work him over with some ground and pound, maybe end up getting a submission of his own down the stretch. I do think Thiago Moises is a phenomenal grappler, but I just don't want to undersell this guy. He's a dangerous guy. He's got good kicks. Joel Alvarez, he's kind of weird striking in transition. I don't think he's like altogether a great fighter. I do think he's very dangerous. I think if you're playing Alvarez, it's Alvarez inside the distance in all likelihood here. But I think that Moises, he's not an easy guy to finish. I thought it was impressive that he beat up Alexander Hernandez, but I will say this. I also bet that, it's a lot different though when you're getting a plus 199, plus 200 type tag on a guy like Thiago Moises. That's just an effing gift. But it's like now, to lay that minus 250 number, that would be a little bit of an aberration from a lot of his UFC odds lay. So I think that Thiago is a good fighter, solid guy. I just don't know if I want to get on a tracked bet here. I probably will end up parlaying him, like I mentioned with Casey. But this is a tricky one. I will say this is just I feel like Joel Alvarez, I'm just a little worried of parlaying against this guy. He is like consistently missing weight, coming in massive, 6'3", huge, like 7-inch reach advantage in this fight. But Moises, he picks his shots. He lands pretty good stinging shots when he commits to them. He can land a nice body kick. I like when he puts that behind some punches. So, I like Thiago Moises in this spot. I think he's going to get the finish, but I just have, a little bit of nerves. I almost want to hedge on like a Alvarez round one play or something like that, just because I think that, his decision equity is nil, but his finishing equity is decent and justifies his price in that sense.
Well, this is one where, I bet on Alvarez against Joe Duffy. I bet on Alvarez against Yakovlev. And I can't do it here. Both those time and ability to finish the which is win criteria. I don't see him finishing Moises. Watch this happen now that I've spoken into existence. But this is one where I don't see him winning minutes. I know I'm seeing it in the chat that you can out-volley them. I don't see it as much. Moises is a very, very technical guy. I think he's fought a lot of better fighters. He's able to he's facing guys not as good as the guys he's faced recently, right? So I think it's his fight to win. I'm not huge on him. He's not as confident as guys who I had on the card last week. But I do my bets on a 5-unit scale, right, on a confidence level. So I think that it's definitely warranted a 2-unit, 3-unit play. I like him a lot, not to the point of Max Holloway, who, by the way, isn't a 5-unit play of mine. But this is one where I think it's Moises' fight to lose. I don't think he's dumb enough to put himself into any dangerous place on the ground. I think he would win it on the feet. And I'm excited to see how this one goes. I think this is going to be a really good fight, flies under the radar, and I expect Moises to come out on top here. And with that, we get to the main card. Song Yadong against Julio Arce. Song Yadong 17-5-1, Julio Arce 17-4. Two guys who were very hyped up in the division earlier to this. Julio Arce, who is an extremely talented kickboxer, striker, struggled against ground games in the past. Song Yadong had a nice little fight against Casey Kenny, who lost me some money, which kind of hurts because I was on Casey. But I do think that both these guys have a lot of talents. Luckily for Julio Arce, as I mentioned in my DFS video, Song Yadong doesn't really, let's say, go for takedowns as much as his previous opponents, and will be able to give him that standing fight that he probably wants. You have the power, I think, more in the it's pretty close powerful, but I think that you give the technicality, the striking advantage to Arce, and for that reason, I have no bet on it, but I will be having someone on DraftKings. I think that Song Yadong has the abilities to win this fight pretty easily if he wants to wrestle and come in out of the pocket and not engage in that at-range kickboxing match, which is what Arce wants. But I think that if Song Yadong closes the distance, it's his fight to lose. However, I don't see it playing out like this. For some reason, I have this image of this used to be a 15-minute kickboxing bout, which I'm going to favor Arce in. But no bet for me. Again, want him to sit back, enjoy. Nice little opener to the main card. And I'm excited to see what you have to say about it. Oh, we lose you? Well, hopefully he reconnects there. Dong Power, yes, guys. Song Yadong, a legend. Oh, there you go. What's going on?
What's up, boss? Sorry about
that.
There
you go. You're all good.
Sorry about that, Chief. You were having a vision, last I heard.
Yeah, I had the vision that this is going to be a 15-minute kickboxing bout. I think at range, Arce wins the minutes. And I think that it's if that's what happens, I think he wins it there. Song Yadong, if he wants to close the distance, I think it's his fight to win if he does want to execute that game plan, close the distance, shoot for takedowns. But for some reason, I think it's to be a stand-up battle, and for that reason, I have to give some points to Arce there, because if it does become a stand-up battle, I think Arce has a lot better chance than the line does entail. However, no bet from me, complete pass. Some DraftKings for Arce, but other than that, nothing tracked. Excited to see what you have to say, though.
I got 1.1 units on my boy Julio Arce at plus 115. And, this is the kind of Tiger Schulman's MMA guy that I'm looking to back because I think he's a little bit more defensively responsible than some of the other guys from the gym. Mike Trezano, I think of as the same way. A lot of the guys are looking to get in a firefight. They have great offense, tremendous offense, all of them, but some of them are a little bit more willing to get in that firefight. Whereas I think Arce, he tries to measure the fight. He tries to find his spots. He picks angles well. I think that he's got excellent kicks. I think that that could be a difference maker in this fight. Song Yadong throws a lot of great punches, but, he's kind of meat and potatoes with his style. He throws a lot of straights. He throws a lot of hooks. He throws a lot of advancing punches. And I do think that somebody like Arce can start to get timing, get reads on what he has to offer. Song's got decent kicking too, but I'm telling you, don't sleep on this man's kicks. Julio Arce, he puts everything together quite well, in my opinion. He's got a clever game, and Song is young, and he's getting UFC experience, and I think that he's a talented guy. But he's shown a couple fights now that he can fight really close, and he can have to eke one out and steal one late. And I do think somebody who's clever could give a vet lesson. I think Julio Arce can give a vet lesson. I like him a lot better at 135. We talked about, when Calvillo moved up to 25, I didn't like that move. I kind of like this move down in weight class. And I think that he's a lot more effective here. I think it's going to be harder for somebody to out-grapple him at this weight. I think his grappling in and of itself is not bad. I think his defensive wrestling needed a little work. But his own admission was that he felt too small to handle those guys physically at 145, coming back down here to 135. I think that this should be a very close back and forth competitive scrap. I think this is a pick 'em or a slight favor to Arce, in my opinion. And I think that, I could see Song mixing it up with the wrestling. That is my concern. But I think overall, I think Julio Arce might be making, his way towards the top 15. I know he's at a little bit of an advanced stage, but I really was impressed by his last performance, and he seemed more lethal. I liked a lot of what I saw from his last game. Looked measured, lethal, ready to be there, excited to be there, and I think that this is a big opportunity for him. I don't think he's coming here, to win a decision. I think he's going to try and take Song out of there. And I think that being said, I think that this fight could definitely go 15 minutes. I think if it does, it's anybody's ball game. But I also think that, Arce, he's clever. His finishes don't just come from power. They come from setting up shots and landing them cleanly. And I think that it's possible he's going to be able to do that. And we have seen Song slow down the stretch in some of these 15-minute bouts. And, I think Arce is live to get that late finish here as well. I think that Mina's saying she thinks Song can get a TKO. Fair play, and God bless. I think it's possible, but I'm going to take my man Julio Arce, and I think he could get the KO.
Yeah, I see everything she's saying in the chat, and I do respect it all, and I do agree that he has a lot better chance than people are giving him to, but I think that this does become a kickboxing bout. I do believe Arce is a better kickboxer. I think Yadong is be able to slap him, everything that Frank Newman is saying. I love the name here, by the way. Song Yadong is a classic MMA name. Anyways, I just think that if it does become that range kickboxing bout, despite how powerful Yadong is, I do give the defensive edge to Arce. I do give the technical ability to Arce. I do give the kicking game to Arce. I'm not going to count out Song Yadong. I have no bet on this one, like I said. I just don't think it should be that much of a favorite fight. Sorry, I don't think Song Yadong should be favored that much if it does stay out at range. I'm not saying it will. That's the main reason I'm not betting it, is because of all those unknowns. But I do like your spot on Arce because I do believe that he's a lot better shot than this line entails. There you go. And I will be playing some Arce on DraftKings. So for all those who are going to ask me for my DraftKings lines tomorrow, that's going to be one of them. All right, 4 fights left. And speaking of DraftKings, again, guys, check out my YouTube video after this. But a fight I really want to target this week is Miguel Baeza 10-1, Chaos Williams 12-2. Chaos Williams exploded onto the UFC scene. 2 wins, 48 seconds. Good for him. Not so much recently. He had a nice bounce back win. That cost me a bit of money, but oh well. Anyways, Chaos Williams is a power puncher. Lethal power. Miguel Baeza was undefeated until his absolute war with Santiago Ponzinibbio, one of the best fights we've seen in a long time. Which, by the way, that Gaethje-Chandler fight, just have to mention this on stream. What an absolute classic. I really enjoyed that one, and I've watched it 3 times since, so I had to mention something about it. But yeah, hey, this is one where I'm liking a bit of a Baeza action here. I think that he has a more well-rounded game. However, I have no bet on it due to the fact that Williams has a lot of power and Baeza gets hit a lot. So no confidence, none at all. But I do think Baeza does have the skills to get a nice little win here. He's a very talented guy. I think he's got all the skills that made Williams lose a couple fights ago. But at the same time, the power is scary. Williams is a very powerful guy. So this is the one. Again, no bet on it. A lot of DraftKings exposure. But what do you have on this one?
So this was the first fight that I looked onto on the card, and I have no bet on this fight. I will say this. I think that a lot of people are convicted on Baeza this weekend, and I get why. Baeza, if he fights smart, could look hindsight like a big favorite here, potentially. But I also think that Chaos presents interesting challenges. I don't think that Chaos is a bum. And a lot of people do. And even people I respect have called him a bum, a cab driver, a few other derogatory terms. And I'll tell you this. I think that Chaos Williams is learning on the job. I don't think he's like elite at his grappling. I don't think he's elite at striking or anything else, really. I just think that he's like very physically adept. I think he kind of understands what he has to do to win, like the win criteria for him every fight. And Mina's saying in the chat, Baeza by sub. I think that's a live possibility, but what I'll mention is the following. Chaos seems to me like a pretty tough, durable guy. He's been hit hard in fights and not gone away. And that includes in some of the fights on the regionals as well. Not every fight was a walkthrough for him. And I think that Chaos, he might get submitted in this spot. I do think that Baeza is the more technical ground fighter, but he doesn't really shoot a lot of takedowns. He doesn't really pursue the grappling very often. He is like mostly, on the striking flow. That being said, I still think his striking game is like a little bit better developed than Chaos from a technical perspective, right? He's going to land the more clever kicks, whereas Chaos is going to try and line up a big punt to the outside of the leg like he always does. And, same thing where Baeza is going to try and pick a couple shots in combination and set up one nice, laser of a hand to fire down the pipe. Whereas Chaos is going to go, all right, now's my chance to throw 6 shots in a row as he's moving backwards, and I chase after him. And, I think that this could just play out as a weird decision. That's the thing that gets tricky to me. And I think a lot of people are on Chaos to win by KO and this kind of thing. And it's certainly not outside the realm, but Baeza's been chin checked and he's shown decent recoverability. Overall, I thought that he was more chinny than I realized. When I watched back on tape, he did have better recoverability than I thought. He wasn't just staggered all over the place for 30 seconds a minute at a time. So I think that this is a good fight, man. I think that this should be a fun one. I'm actually really excited to see how this one plays out. And I think overall, I just can't be laying chalk against Chaos right now. I also don't think Chaos is worth the bet in this spot for me. I think that this fight might just play out a little bit close. I think that this could be a tricky one. And Baez is just not a guy that I'm sold on quite yet. I want to see a little bit more. I agree with me, and I think Williams can win a decision here. He's like plus 500 or something to do so. And it's not to say that I'm going to run to the window to bet it, but I just think kind of unconventional take. Chaos throws more volume. If he doesn't get hurt, and he's never really gotten hurt in a lot of the tape I've watched, he's like pretty durable guy. If he doesn't get hurt, and if Baeza doesn't start shooting takedowns, maybe Baeza starts to slow down a little bit. Maybe Chaos Williams is able to just throw more volume down the stretch. Weird fight. I think Baeza is better, so I'm going to go with Baeza for my official pick. But, man, just not rushing to bet against Chaos Williams. I'll tell you that.
You know what? I think you said everything I had to say on that one. This is one where I'm passing. I'm watching it. I think it could be fight of the night, honestly. A lot of potential, but at the same time, when you have these two power punchers, these two guys who are so tough, so skilled, could be boring as well. You've seen that happen before. So, again,
why does Chaos always come in 169? Anybody going to tell me that?
I don't know. I think he does it on purpose.
I
don't know. Okay, question is, I've watched tape on Williams a lot of times. What is his fighter nickname?
The Ox Fighter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why did I think his name was Chaos Williams? I had no idea it was Ox Fighter.
It's Kalen. Kalen is the name that sometimes comes up on betting sites and stuff, but I think he goes by Chaos Williams, and then his nickname is the Ox Fighter.
Well, I was doing the DFS video in the middle of shooting, and I was mentioning out how Baeza's name is Caramel Thunder. That's a pretty sick name. And my partner Kira goes, hey, what's going on? Isn't Chaos's name just Chaos? And I go, yeah, for sure. And I check it. It's the Ox Fighter. I'm like, I do not remember that at all. Hey, pretty good battle of nicknames here. Again, a fight I want no part of. DraftKings exposure, sure. Both guys very technical. Baeza has a better ground game and the ability to go there if he wants to, but not when I'm rushed to the window to bet. No bet. Sit back, enjoy. One last thing.
Yes, one technical detail I wanted to mention on the way out because it really was important to me when I was breaking down this fight. And the main reason why I didn't get to the window with Baeza is Baeza likes to throw a lot of naked kicks to the leg, just like Chaos does, right? But Chaos, when he knocked out Abdul Razak Al-Hassan in the early going, it was timing Abdul Razak trying to kick him on one foot, and he put him in the fucking box. So I'm just saying, guys, that's the reason I did not get to the window with Miguel Baeza. If he gets caught on one foot by Chaos Williams, he's going in the box too.
Hey, I can see that one. Definitely is a possibility. But again, so many different possibilities. No bet for me at all. I hope it's an exciting one. A lot of high hopes for this one. What are we saying? Anyone know Max's real name is Jerome? Yes, I did. Max Holloway is one of my favorite fighters. Absolute beauty. His name's like, what's his middle name is Max or something like that. I think he's like, I don't know. Let me look it up real quick. Jerome Max Kelly Holloway. Absolute stud. I can't wait to talk about it. We'll get him there later. We got 3 fights left to talk about. And here we go. Our girl, I don't know how I'm going to intro her, but Felicia Spencer, 8-3, Leah Letson, 5-1. Felicia Spencer was, I'm not saying she's not anymore, but she was one of my like favorite fighters. I know, Canadian girl. She always gave me that soccer mom vibe, and yet she was still able to go out there and just ground and pound people's faces in when I was watching tape. Love watching her. Cheer for her all the time. Huge respect for going 5 rounds with Nunes. I mean, who does that, right? Then she goes out there when I put like, I think 3.5 units on her to win against Norma Dumont. Yes, I underestimated Norma Dumont. And she looked like an absolute scrub. Oh, well, I'll take my L on that one. It wasn't the best bet of mine, but I thought that Felicia Spencer showed a lot more skill than she did. Anyways, that was a step down. The main reason I bet her a lot against Norma Dumont was that was a step down. Anybody is a step down from Amanda Nunes, and I'm realizing that now. But Leah Letson is an even bigger step down. I mean, if this division wasn't so thin, she wouldn't be fighting Felicia Spencer right here. Leah Letson hasn't fought in, 3 years? It's a tough one, right? Leah Letson isn't the best fighter, in my opinion. I don't know what she's working on in those 3 years, but despite all of Felicia Spencer's flaws, she's got a ground game. If she gets it there, she's able to impose a very hellacious ground and pound, has some good submission skills as well. I think she finishes her. I think she finishes Leah Letson here pretty brutally. And I'm okay if you guys want to yell at me for that one. I know it doesn't look like the prettiest bet to make, but I've already bet her inside the distance. I only have 3 bets locked in, and one of them is Felicia Spencer to finish this fight plus 200. I love it. I think that she goes out there and absolutely smashes this. They both look like soccer moms. They both do. The problem is Felicia Spencer could beat me the hell up really easily, and I'm scared of her, but that's okay. This is one of these ones where I'm prepared to look stupid. I want to add another unit on her to win inside the distance at plus 200, but I probably won't. So how crazy am I is the real question.
Hey, man, I don't know if you're crazy. And again, full disclosure, I'm not yet a profitable women's MMA bettor. I am on Leah Letson money line here at plus 275, my brother. And I'll tell you this. I'm not on it big, right? I'm on this one small. I think it's 0.73 units, my man. And I'll tell you why. What I saw from her is that she was very green. She was not and Mina's saying I'm crazy, and I understand, right?
You are.
Let me make this case. And if I'm still crazy at the end, that's fair. But when I went back and I watched her tape, what I saw was she was a little green. And so people were like hip tossing her off her feet because she was pressuring forward so hard. Like she would get into the clinch and then people would just like hip her over. I think that she is understanding what she needed to work on. She's been away for a long time, but she decided she wanted to come back, right? So it's like she's been working to come back. She's been dealing with some injuries, some stuff like this. She changed training camps completely. She's at Wanderlei Jiu-Jitsu. So she's like one of the primary focuses of the gym. And I know that Leah's had health problems, right? But Leah has had fights at 145 pounds. She did not look bad in those fights, right? She gets finished by Macy Chiasson. If you go back and watch that fight, it's very competitive the whole way through. She's obviously losing the striking exchanges, but keeping them competitive, doing damage, busting up Macy a little bit. And Macy hits her with a thunderous knee to the liver that ends the fight. Okay. Do we see Felicia Spencer doing that? I don't. So, okay. So it's not going to look like her first loss. What could it look like then? Maybe Felicia just gets on top of her and takes her down. Where's the wrestling game of Felicia Spencer? I went back in the tape and I couldn't find it, and I was looking for it. It's like she like accidentally gets into some of these positions. And, I thought that Megan Anderson made like just like fundamental, like pivotal grappling basic mistakes to lose that fight, and in kind of embarrassing fashion. So like that was like a really weird fight, in my opinion. The Zara Farron fight, Zara Farron was able to defend like 3 or 4 takedown attempts and then gets taken down. And granted, Zara Farron looked a little bit bigger. But the thing was, what do these ladies have in common? They have big, awkward, oblong builds that are completely non-functional from a wrestling perspective, and they don't know how to wrestle. So if you take I don't know how to wrestle and put it in a big noodly body, it gets completely manhandled by anybody that knows how to grapple, okay? This is not the same. Leah Letson, for whatever else she is like a muscly kind of girl, like stout, short, stocky, not just going to get barreled over on a takedown, I don't believe. And maybe she will, right? Maybe she gets standing back take because she's so slow. Maybe she gets hip tossed and she hasn't learned anything in 3 years. But she's had 3 years. She's not like old and washed and over the hill. She was green the last time we saw her fight, and she was still getting wins. And frankly, how many women can you say put a hole in somebody's face and like busted them up? How many women can you say got a hole put in their face and kept fighting? It's like this chick is pretty tough, and I think she can do real damage. And man, I like what I heard from Felicia in regards to man. Oh my God. The Taekwondo kicks are very, very ineffective though. I haven't seen them land. Like, I think that Spencer as a grappler has some upside, especially in this matchup. But Spencer as a striker has looked very, very bad to me in the UFC, and has done a lot of face get punching. Like she gets hit very often. And I know the level of competition is a lot higher, but Leah Letson, what do we know about her? Pretty committed to coming forward with pressure and aggression and throwing hands. She knows what she needs to do. So unless she's just completely dog shit at grappling and gets finished, I have no idea how Felicia Spencer would justify the price. So for that reason, I'm on Leah Letson here. I think that Felicia, nice girl. I like her interpersonally, but I don't think she strikes me as like this phenomenal athlete. I think that she is like a hard worker that's put together some impressive wins. She's the Forrest Griffin of the featherweight division. But I think Leah Letson, with some training, with some improvements, could actually be a decent 145er. Like, she comes forward, she's aggressive. She's not that big and tall, but I think that she actually can hit, and she's not afraid of these bigger ladies. Like, every woman that she fought on The Ultimate Fighter was bigger. So I don't know. I think that this is a winnable fight for Leah Letson. I think this is a winnable fight for Felicia Spencer. I think that Felicia Spencer, you could talk me into 2-1, but 3-1, no. Not after the last fight where she's not even trying to wrestle, where Norma Dumont is having more wrestling success than you are. Stop. Come on. Come on.
I think this is completely this line is completely just recency bias, though. I think that if Norma Dumont doesn't,
no one knows who Leah Letson is. Dude, how many people went back like me or you and went back and watched the tape? And with all due respect, probably very few. So it's like everybody's like, Felicia Spencer fights Amanda Nunes and these real chicks. She should win. I'm not saying that it's like outside the realm. I get why she has a path. But to say she's 75, 80%, I'm just like, why? Guys, she like Norma Dumont, nobody thought of her as like the class of the division. And now it's like everybody's going to have to, putting down Aspen Ladd and also if Felicia Spencer gets past Leah Letson here, then what is she, like third or fourth in the division? I don't know.
Felicia Spencer, Norma Dumont had one of like the easiest routes to the top, I think, in my opinion. She fights a girl. Oh, God, no. She fights Jessica Rose Clark, pieces her up fine. Faces Felicia Spencer, who doesn't execute her game plan, doesn't use her advantages really to a split decision. The area where Felicia Spencer wasn't that good, she was able to take her to a split decision. And then gets a fight against Aspen Ladd where there's no punches thrown in the first 3 rounds. Good for Norma Dumont. I mean, she was able to get that right at the top, and I'll be fading her in the future. But back to this one. You're banking on a fighter who hasn't fought in 3 years to make improvements. I know she's had health problems, and I get that angle. But at the same time, it's not like Felicia Spencer isn't working either, despite how questionable she looked her last time out. When she faces people who she is stronger than, better than, she exploits every single weakness. And I know you mentioned on tape, Leah Letson, if she didn't make drastic improvements, Felicia Spencer has hip tosses on her resume. I know she doesn't have against good level of competition, but who's saying that Leah Letson is that good level of competition? I'm thinking that if this does go to the ground, if Felicia Spencer's on top, it's over. That's my thoughts. I think that despite what you're saying, and I get it, I respect everything you're saying with her getting all this training, BJJ, Felicia Spencer's fought better level of competition, has hellacious ground and pound, is the better fighter on the ground, in my opinion. And we look in the stand-up, if you want me to back someone against Felicia Spencer, they have to be substantially better on the feet. And I don't think Letson is. I think that her pushing forward is going to play into Felicia Spencer's hands. I think Felicia Spencer is going to be able to see that she lost her fight last time by not being aggressive enough and warranting those takedowns. I think she goes out there and wants to reclaim that, hey, I went 5 rounds with Amanda Nunes, stop counting me out kind of vibe. So I'm taking Felicia Spencer here. But again, I have one bet on her to finish. Maybe she's that other parlay piece that Thiago Moises. I have no idea yet. I respect going head-to-head with you, but don't bet against my Canadian girl. Felicia Spencer should go out there. I hope she puts on a clinic, and I hope that she regains that confidence and that brutality on the ground that she's had before.
Dude, I just looked into her training environment, and I was not altogether sold. That was one of my concerns there. And maybe I'm crazy. She trains with, the Jungle. Have you ever heard of another fighter from there? I don't know about this one. I don't know about it. I think Seth Petrozelli is listed on Tapology, but yeah, not a ton of winning fighters coming out of the gym.
You're going to get a talking to, apparently, though.
Hey, that's all right. You can let me have it. I understand. Can't all agree on all these fights, right?
Yes. All right. Well, end of the day, I think that if you are betting Leah Letson, you bet her to win by decision, and you get a massive, huge line. Don't see it happening.
I think the best market price was plus 400 for her to win by decision. So you're saying that and yet she would. I was bitter, man. I missed the plus 300. I was very bitter about that. But even plus 275, I would have played it for a unit at plus 300, plus 275, 0.73. I'm willing to do that.
What's Leah Letson lined against? I know Pam Sorensen's fighting probably right now. What's she lined against her? What's she lined against Megan Anderson? Like, level of competition, man. I'm taking my girl Felicia all day.
Hey, fair enough. Dude, if you gave me plus 300 Megan Anderson versus this chick, I would absolutely play Leah Letson in that one too.
All right. Fair play. Well, looks like you got a new best friend, because if Leah Letson cashes for you, I'll never hear the end of it, because this is one where usually I'm against you. If this is Jung and Nchekwu fight, I'll give you your credit, but I'm taking my girl Felicia all day, and I don't care what you got to say. I'm just getting that respect. Love you, buddy. All right, next one up.
I'm terrible at women's fights. Don't listen to me, all right? Don't listen to me unless it cashes, and then come back and weep.
All right, there you go. All right, next one up. Co-main event, Ben Rothwell, 39-13. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 18-7-1. I'm going to keep this one really, really short, all right? Neither guy really just makes me want to run to the belt run to the whatever their saying is. I don't really want to bet either of these guys. That's how interested you can tell I am, because I don't even have the energy to explain the saying. Rothwell has holes in his game. De Lima has massive holes in this game. I edge Ben Rothwell, but I am not very confident at all. De Lima shows he can gas all the time, but he showed that he had decent fight IQ because he took down Morris Green for 15 minutes in a very boring fight. Ben Rothwell, I think, has a better ground game if it goes there. I think it's going to be a boring stand-up fight for the longest period of time. I know they have the ability to strike if they want to, but don't think it happens. I think it's pretty boring. I think Rothwell edges out a decision. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll keep this one a little bit brief. I have, some action on Rothwell submission at plus 420 here. And that's really all I feel good about from a betting perspective here. I don't hate the fight doesn't go the distance. Although I do think that it's very possible they could grease their way over by doing nothing. But overall, my read on this fight is that Ben Rothwell is pretty reliable to come forward, throw ugly-looking strikes in volume. And I think that De Lima, while being a better striker, is more prone to like panic and collapse in a fight almost for no reason. And, getting choked out with that forearm choke was very embarrassing in my view. I believe he's listed as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, which is horrifying if true, sad if true. If you're getting submitted with the forearm choke there, like without resisting it really. So I think, overall, Lima has obviously some upside on the feet here. I do think that Rothwell's starting to show signs of deterioration on the feet. His game is not as functional without steroids. He doesn't have as much power. But I'll also say that Rothwell's always been a crafty submission artist, and you have a guy in De Lima who like can't help but get submitted every other fight in the UFC. Like he's been around for a long time, guys, and he's been getting submitted by subpar competition for some time. And he's not like a young dog either. They always say you can't teach old dogs new tricks. He's like 36 and a hook. I don't think that this guy is like. I think he's on a better upwards trajectory than Rothwell. So that's why I'm not playing the Rothwell money line here, but I just got to pick Rothwell outright. I think he's a better fighter and kind of always has been than De Lima, broadly speaking. But I do think that, Rothwell doesn't really shoot for takedowns either. He kind of just gets on top of people. He kind of forces them to wrestle him. He's just got a weird style. But I think Rothwell hurting this guy isn't outside the realm of possibility. I think De Lima panic shooting, if he starts to get tired, is not outside the realm of possibility. I could see the front choke, but man, I could just see Rothwell Rothwell's a smart guy. You listen to Rothwell interviews, he's no dummy. I think Rothwell will be looking at the tape and going, I need this guy to somehow get to the ground and put pressure on his neck, and we're all good. We're squared away. I need to put a shoulder on him. I need to put a forearm on him, and with all due respect, that can't be comforting. If he goes to the ground in this matchup, that can't be comforting for Lima backers because the guy has just found a way out of there a lot of times on the ground. And I will say, he's shown some get-up abilities, but I just think that this is tough, man. You're going to get up from Big Ben, 265, who's got a really nasty front headlock game. If you try and turn up to your feet from a base, I don't know. I think that's tough. I think the 10-finger guillotine very live here.
There you go, man. All right. Let's keep that one short. Co-main event. Honestly, this card in general, some bright spots, but in general, just a huge step down from last week. But that's okay because it's Blessed Express time. We are finally at the main event. My favorite fighters fighting. I am hyped. Early card, so this fight cannot come fast enough. Max Holloway, 22-6. Yair Rodriguez, 13-2. Max Holloway coming off a record-shattering performance against Calvin Kattar, where he was. I saw a lot of people bet against him, man. But farewell. He showed people that he was still the best at his craft, and the man is a UFC legend, a future Hall of Famer for sure. The guy's a stud. He's coming out here. He's facing guy Yair Rodriguez, 13-2. Very, very good kickboxer. Has not fought in a couple of years, but has some very credible wins. He has that infamous last-second elbow knockout over the Korean Zombie. Give him that. No matter how much I love Max Holloway, when I mean I love Max Holloway, I put 5 units. He was in my long-term investment when he was minus 350. I don't think he should be minus 700 here. I don't think that he should be minus 700 against a guy who has the striking credentials that Yair Rodriguez does. Now, with that being said, I think Max Holloway goes out there and smokes him. I think he goes out there, wears on him with volume, gasses him out, forward pressure, outstrikes him, puts on another clinic. I think he actually finishes Yair Rodriguez. With that being said, Max Holloway against a guy of Yair Rodriguez's caliber should not be more of a favorite than Amanda Nunes is against Juliana Pena. And that was what I tweeted out. That was my thoughts on that one. I will hammer the Max Holloway money line at minus 350 every single day of the week. When it gets to minus 750, I'm kind of getting scared with it because no matter how tough we know Max Holloway is, he's never been knocked down. He's got all these things going for him. Yair Rodriguez is a powerful, powerful man. I'm not saying he's going to finish him, but the stylistic matchup doesn't really give me this minus 700 vibe either. Furthermore, and no matter how much I think he's going to dominate him down the stretch, for those 2 rounds of gas that I think Yair Rodriguez has, he is a deadly man, and Max Holloway gets hit. So I don't know what we're going to see. I think Max Holloway smokes him. I would not play Max Holloway past minus 600, minus 500. I love my minus 350 shot. Long gone by now. If you have access to round 4, 5 decision, round 3, 4, 5 decision, that's the line you got to play. What are your thoughts on this absolutely beautiful main event with my boy Max Holloway in it?
Man, I remember that fight in January. Unbelievable. Very good fight card.
I've watched it like 10 times, man. That's my favorite fight to watch.
I mean, it's fantastic. It really is. And, I was like shook to my core in a good way by that, that moment in the fight where he's slipping shots and screaming, "I'm the best boxer in the UFC." It was a gangster moment. Here's the problem. He is the best boxer in the UFC right that night, throwing all the volume, everything like this. Beautiful. How could you critique Max Holloway? You can't. But I think this is a unique challenge. You look at a lot of the guys Max Holloway fights, and they, fit some kind of wrestle boxing archetype. Most of them do. Whether or not they're wrestlers first, whether they're boxers first, most of them fit that kind of archetype. Anthony Pettis would be an exception. I'm going to go back and look and see if there's anything else I'm missing in terms of a challenge that's, not like that. Maybe Charles Oliveira. Cole Miller's like a jiu-jitsu guy. If you go way back, it's like this guy, really fights a lot of guys who want to box, and he's had a lot of success. He's had a couple stumbles. Dustin Poirier was able to outbox him in a primarily boxing fight, but it was mostly based on power. It was based on size. I think that in this fight, man, plus 570 on Yair Rodriguez, that's kind of absurd. When I'm looking at Yair Rodriguez, I'm seeing, pretty good kicks. He's got very interesting offense, right? It kind of comes out of nowhere at times. He'll fight in bursts at times. I thought that the 5-round fight with Chan Sung Jung, he made critical errors that cost him those rounds. But it's not like those rounds were just like smooth sailing for the zombie. Like none of those rounds were smooth sailing. He was getting hit with hard shots throughout the fight. And I think sometimes when people talk about that fight, they're talking about it like, Zombie was just putting on this master class and Yair was just there. And then he found it. No, when I went back and watched it, like, no, Yair was landing all night. He landed an up elbow that split his lip earlier in the fight. He landed a couple spinning back elbows. Like, the guy has impeccable timing. And that fight I keep coming back to because this is a guy who, loves to get in the fight. He loves to press the fight. He loves to throw hands with somebody. And Yair, he's got very good timing when somebody aggressively enters the pocket. Max is long. He might be able to keep good enough distance with the jab and the two that he's not really getting touched by it. But you got to think about the fact that Yair doesn't care what range you're at. He's still kicking. Like he's always trying to kick. He'll try and kick short to the inside of the leg and blast the leg up. He'll try and jump with a knee. He'll try and jumping switch kick to the head. And he could do that all from a variety of ranges. And so even Max Holloway, who I think is a phenomenal fighter, he's not going to get takedowns in this fight. In all likelihood, he's not going to pursue him. If I thought he was reliable to go after them, I would be much more comfortable betting him here. But he's not. So he's going to engage in a kickboxing match with a guy who wants to kickbox him. And I think that Max is better. How could you say that Max is going to out kickbox the guy, 90% of the time? That's just that's really hard to say, in my opinion, when you got somebody of Yair's skill and talent. And on top of that, when you've got somebody who's got an unorthodox style, it's hard to prepare for Max Holloway because he throws a tremendous amount of volume, but he throws ones and twos. Like he throws ones and twos, he switches stances, he does the same. He throws the teep to the body, he'll mix it in. But he's got a largely basic game that has beautiful adaptations that builds on all these different layers. But it's pretty basic. It's ones and twos. Like he's going to punch you in the face and the body. Can you stand up to that pressure? That's the question. Yair, pretty tough, durable guy. The fights where we've seen him slow down, most of the time, they've been 3-rounders where he spends himself trying to get finishes. He's a nut. I think he's going to pace himself a little bit over 5 rounds here. I think that he's going to try and, do damage to the legs. I think he's going to be looking for a ton of kicks in the fight. I think he's going to try and skirt in and out of range. I think Max is definitely going to take over this fight as it goes on. But would it be, the world's craziest outcome if Yair snuck 3 close rounds from him? I actually don't think it's like the weirdest outcome of all time. I think Max to win a decision should be like -600, -700. Okay. But when you're talking about the fact that he also could get knocked out in this fight, when you're talking about the fact that he's never been knocked down, but he's absorbed the most head strikes in UFC history. And, these guys are the same age. But what's the major difference between them? For good or for ill, Yair's been less active. For good or for ill, Yair's been getting hit in the head less. And Yair, he's training with good guys. His teammate just went out there and put on that beautiful spinning head kick knockout. Valley Flow, those guys are pretty good, man. And I think that overall, I like Yair Rodriguez came back off a big layoff for the Chan Sung Jung fight too and overperformed everybody's expectations. I think he's capable of doing the same here. That being said, got to favor Max. I like your number. I think you got it in at the right time. I just think now it is dog or pass, plain and simple at the number. If you have a guy who's going to kickbox the whole fight and he's standing and trading with somebody who's got thunderous kicks and crazy knockouts from every position, elbows, knees, kicks, and punches, it's like, yeah, that's not the right guy to deal with. And it would show some growth and development, in my opinion, if Max came out here and shoot some takedowns. But I think he's going to try and pressure cook this guy, and he's going to succeed more often than he's not. But in order to pressure cook this guy, you got to put yourself in range. And putting yourself in range against Yair Rodriguez could lead to your demise, And I'll just say this. The head strikes is one thing. Max is one of the toughest SOBs we've ever seen in the UFC. He's not going down because he's feeling a little wobbly. He will stay up and keep fighting. Body shots can shut off the toughest guy in the effing world. And, Jeremy Stevens almost collapsed from a Yair body shot. I think that Yair's got good placement on those kicks. And if Max is throwing hands a lot, he's going to have that big torso open for those kicks to come in thudding from the sides. And I just think that Yair is a little bit slept on in the spot. So don't have any tracked bets on it, guys. But, I love Max Holloway. The best is blessed. But I think that styles make fights, and this is a style clash. You get a boxer with some kickboxing elements who wants to box versus a kickboxer with some boxing elements who wants to kick. That's a fun fight. The UFC doesn't put these on for no reason. And, Max putting on an all-time great performance. I say with all due respect, I know he's one of your favorite fighters, got to be on the fucking most insane gear of all time, guys. Like the jumps in output are insane. Like his output was already like very good. His output is now like inhuman, and I appreciate that about him. So I do think it's very possible that even if he gets hit with a nuke in this fight, he just goes and like some wire in his brain recircuits and he's fine. I think that Max Holloway is very, very good, and also he's had championship money for a long time. He invests in himself. I'll leave it at that.
I think Frank tells me everything I got to know about this one. This is exactly how I feel. Max wins fights by breaking guys down over the stretch. Volume, pressure. He is that guy, and he's had this style that's worked for so long. I get what we're saying in the chat as well, that Yair's not going to be a stationary. The problem is Max is just the best at what he does. And when I say that Yair is gassed out and people in the past have gassed out against Holloway, it's mostly because Max's style forces them to gas out too. He closes distance. He always has hands on you. And when you're fighting back, you're exerting energy no matter how hard you try. Max Holloway doesn't take steps back. Yair Rodriguez does. Yair Rodriguez gets walked up against the cage. When you're walked up against the cage, that limits the kicks as well. This is a spot where I think Max Holloway should cruise to a solid victory, yet I can't get mad at anyone taking a shot on Rodriguez to win this fight at that big plus money number just because it's wide. You said it yourself. It's a clash of styles, and this is one where, despite how much I think Holloway is going to win, the smart money is on Yair Rodriguez. I think that if Calvin Kattar and Yair Rodriguez were going to fight, the line would be really close. And wasn't Calvin Kattar like almost a favorite against Holloway? It was like minus 140 for Holloway. Like it's just really tough to make that comparison. Yeah, last time they fight, it opened at Max Holloway 135, Calvin Kattar plus 115. Like it's really, really tough for me to see it. I think that it's going to be closer than this line does entail. I think it's people. I'm going to be sweating it myself. But when it comes to the end of it, Max's style is going to break down your Rodriguez. I think it's a style that works out great for him. It's not like Volkanovski who can give them that worrisome about the takedowns. But Max Holloway's going to be able to have the exact fight he wants. Standing up on the feet, volume, 5 rounds, time to get it done, time to turn up that dial. I think he goes out there and breaks even more records, and I think he finishes Yair Rodriguez later on. So that's going to do it for us. One last question before I get to the outro here, bud. There we go. My favorite fighter is Max Holloway. Who is your favorite fighter in the UFC or in all of MMA?
Oh, well, I think I'm going to have to start changing this answer because, I don't know how much longer he's going to stick around. Rory McDonald for a long time was my favorite fighter.
Canadian.
Absolutely love Rory McDonald, man. Dude, I'm telling you that the night that solidified my fandom forever, UFC 189, just an unforgettable night, greatest fight I've ever seen, and followed by the Irish coming up large on a major stage. So really exciting time that was, and Conor McGregor, obviously another one of my favorites, hasn't been wearing his good graces lately, but I do think that Conor McGregor brought a lot of big things to the sport. I enjoyed his time in the sport. I think he's funny as hell. So I would have to put those two as two of my all-time favorite fighters. Ironically, Robbie as well, another one of my favorite fighters, man. So I'd put those three towards the top of the list. And I think among active fighters in good graces, let's go with Robbie Lawler.
Hey, well, GSP has always been the top of my list. Canadian guy, right? It's like I love your shot on Rory as well. When it comes to female fighters, used to always be Rose. I like me some Valentina as well. But my new favorite female fighter, and has been for a couple months now, has got to be Casey O'Neill. Gives me a lot of money. Saw a couple likes on Twitter, so shout out to my girl Casey O'Neill. Absolute stud. I think she's probably my favorite female fighter. Also, so Max Holloway and the guys. I love me some Rafael Fiziev as well. Got a soft spot for him. He just after that Tia Casey performance too, it even solidified it even more. Who was fighting on this card? A lot of good fighters I really, really like, but I'm excited for this one. I hope Max Holloway goes out there and keeps that Blessed Express train rolling. I think he gets it done. I'm really loving my minus 350 spot on him. When I got in on that, my long-term investment, as I'm calling it, minus 105 for Nunes, Chimaev, Holloway. Chimaev steamrolled him. I think Holloway puts on a dominant performance, and Nunes is Amanda Nunes. So that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you to all of you for hanging out. After we hear from this beauty of a man here, Liam, you guys can check out that DFS video because I put a lot of great points there as well. And I really like that video. We're having some fun. Check out the NFL video as well. But Liam, tell them where they could find you, and you can throw in there your Hail Marys if you want as well.
Absolutely, buddy. And that's what I was going to tell you is we can't get out of here without giving these Hail Marys on the way out here. So first and foremost, want to say thank you again for having me. Had a tremendous time, a lot of fun. Shout out to everybody who is interacting in the chat as well. Appreciate all your input and opinions. I know we didn't all line up this time, but it's the dialogue that makes the difference, and always learning something from the people who contribute in the chat, as well as me and you having these conversations on a weekly basis. So appreciate you as well, Gordo. You guys can find me at LiamPicksFights on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Appreciate my man DFS Whispers in the comments, says, good luck on my BJJ match coming up. And my content has not been as active this week, guys. I'm preparing for a match. But that being said, I am going to be getting after it. I'm going to put something up before fight time about this card. So appreciate all your support. In terms of what I got for long shot parlays, guys, here I've put together two for you that I really like. One is a 6-leg parlay at plus 2570, and it's just sides. It's the sides that I like here. Ben Rothwell, Arce, Moises, Lee, Casey, and Baeza. It's risky. That's why I wouldn't play all of these bets straight, but I'm trying to look for, this big plus return. And so 6 legs at plus 25, we'll take it. And it's $4 to win $106 is what I put down there. And then, guys, we've got plus 6,935. I got Casey inside the distance, Moises inside the distance, and Ben Rothwell by sub. So that is my long shot this week. I like to do those 3 picks together, and we got a pretty decent sized return on this one, so let's see how it plays out. If I add any others between now and then, you could find it on Twitter, so check it out there.
Well, thank you once again for coming on the show. I know you are a very busy man, so thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Wish you all the luck. I know that you said your BJJ match will be on your channel after.
Yeah, there will be a video of it, and I'll end up posting that at some point.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to watching it one day. I'll make the trek down to watch my man snatch some necks up, as you say. But very thankful for having you on the show again. Lots of Fridays in a row, getting her going. Been a lot of fun. We have an absolute beauty of a card. I know Liam has been making some DraftKings lines. So before I let you go, any DraftKings plays this week? Muted.
Brutality. I tried to click over to the DraftKings link to be preemptive, and look what that got me. But the only full lineup that I had put together was Rothwell, and I know Mbe is going to hate this, Lee, Arce, Kennedy, Casey, and Moises. But I'm still working around on that one a little bit. I think that I think that there's going to be some better spots if I really dig through here, because by example, I like Colin Anglin with some finishing upside at that $7K price tag. So I'm going to look over it again, but I do have a free voucher for a $3 game. So
okay.
Hey, I'm going to be in one of those contests if all goes well, if I can make it to Jersey before fight time.
Well, guys, this is the time to go check out my DFS video. Spoiler alert, I like Colin Anglin too, so go check that out. Should be in this channel. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the channel as well. We're putting out a ton of content. NFL should be out, I don't know, I got to check with my roommate anytime now. But thank you guys all for hanging out with us. As for bets for myself, not that many. I like my girl Spencer, no matter how much you're going to tell me otherwise. I have her to finish. I got a bet on Down Jung, despite you not liking me either. Those are the 2 spots where head-to-head, and I got bets on them, man. Wow. Thiago Moises will like her as well, and I do have him as well, and I have that 5-unit play on Max Holloway. So, once again, thank you to all of you guys for hanging out. That's going to do it for us. Everybody, enjoy the fights. 1 p.m. start time EST. Enjoy them. Take them in, and enjoy your Saturday nights. This has been the Plays and Fades After the Weigh-In Show. Big shout-out to LiamPicksFights. Check him out on Twitter. Check me out on Twitter @GordoGambles, and let's make some money, guys. Peace.